Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Duncan Straight Talk. Today's topic will be navigating through Laser 2 and Laser 3 obsolescence. And thank you for joining us today. We hope this is a productive use of your time. With us today, we have Mr. Ed Borger from Honeywell, a technical sales expert. And thank you, Ed, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you helping us. We also have Michael Kuzatz with us. He's my counterpart. He's the Eastern Regional Avionics Sales Manager, and myself, I'm John Spellmeyer. I'm the Western Regional Avionics Sales Manager, and thank you again for joining. To start the conversation, I'd like to talk a little bit about LASEREFs themselves. Actually, inertial units have been around since the late 1930s. They're invented by a guy, professor at MIT, Stark Draper. He's the father of inertial navigation. These units have been around for a long time, and then with the addition of LASEREFs, they've become much more accurate and reliable. Ed, could you give us a little technical background of LASEREFs?
I sure can. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. So yeah, again, I'm Ed Borger, Honeywell Tech Sales. Been around probably not as long as the guy that invented the inertial, but Honeywell's been in the game for quite a while with these products. And yeah, what you're looking at here is, it looks like an old LASEREF 3. We've actually had an evolution of these products beginning back in the 80s, early 80s, but when we came out with just the LASEREF, that was the product name. It was an evolution of our laser nav and some earlier reference products. But anyway, it started out LASEREF 1, then went LASEREF 2, LASEREF 3, LASEREF 4, and we're actually up to 6 now. The LASEREF 4 is what we're here to talk about today. It's the actual applicable product to replace the obsolescence that's going on now with the 2 and the 3. Honeywell, as I said, has been in the game for a long time with these products. We've evolved them to be smaller, lighter, more reliable. They've only gotten better. And as a result, as we leave the LASEREF 1, 2, and 3 and behind us, there are obsolescence issues. So that's what we want to talk about today, is how to alleviate those obsolescence issues facing you with the LASEREF 2s and 3s. So I will
Ed,
go to, yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt for a second. I forgot to mention that folks online, you have a chat bar on the right. You can ask us questions at any time, and we may answer some questions throughout the presentation at the end. And if we miss any questions you have, Michael and myself will follow up with an email and make sure you get an answer. So sorry for interrupting there, Ed. I just want to make sure folks knew how to ask questions.
Yeah, no problem. That's important. So yeah, we'll try to field them as they come. Next slide. So again, talked about obsolescence. That's really the main reason to be talking here today, is how to end the obsolescence on your aircraft with this product. Honeywell came out with a service information letter, what we call a SIL, back in 2016, kind of warning operators of this equipment that, yeah, there was a sunset coming. And then we updated the SIL in 2018 with an update just to reinforce it and provide a little extra information. And then at the end of last year, the end of 2019, the actual sunset officially occurred. So right now we're in this transition period between the end of last year and the coming up into this year. We're still servicing some old units for AOG reasons, but we've stopped the repair and the exchange. And also they will be coming off your MSP, what we called HAP, your MSP Avionics contract. So if you have an MSP Avionics contract with us, the 2 and 3 will not be supported on those contracts, those warranty extension contracts near the end of this year. They're going to be off. So a lot of reasons to consider jumping and getting rid of the obsolescence this year as we work through the transition. So just some things I've already mentioned, but I'll reinforce here. So as you evolve to the LASEREF 4 and you're replacing a 2 or a 3, the first thing you'll notice is you're saving a lot of weight and volume for that matter. But for example, the LASEREF 2 was 25 pounds, or is 25 pounds heavier than a LASEREF 4. And then the 10 pounds is what's attributed to the LASEREF 3. That's a 10-pound difference. So there is some significant weight reduction in just the single LRU. There is some autologic workload reduction possible in the cockpit with the upgrade. The biggest change that you'll see is you've got a new embedded magnetic variation map. So the newer part numbers understandably come with the more latest updated magnetic variation models, which enable just more accurate magnetic heading navigation in the aircraft and display of magnetic heading. Lastly, we are offering incentives to upgrade this year. So you see there, 2020, we have some some pretty significant trade-in credits on the 2s and 3s. It's in our sales bulletin, operator information bulletins, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, those trade-in credits are good and valid through the end of this year only. Next slide. So this really just shows the simple upgrade path, whether you're doing a LASEREF 2, which is represented on the left side of the slide, or a LASEREF 3 shown on the right. So it's a fairly simple mod. I want to emphasize, though, that it is not a plug and play. You don't just unplug your old and plug in the new, especially if you're taking a LASEREF 2, which is that big 42-pound box there in the upper left. Basically, you replace the old LASEREF 2 with a 4 MCU LASEREF 4 there, shown below, and you can add this adapter tray. That makes the installation very easy. It fits in the same rack that you had. This adapter tray is hosted by the same rack, and then the installer will just repin the connector. So pretty straightforward, but again, not a plug and play. The LASEREF 3 to 4 is on the left side there, excuse me, on the right side there, is a little simpler. You don't need the adapter tray. It's the same form factor. You use the existing tray. There is some repinning of the connector, so you're not just plug and play, but it's fairly straightforward. So that's how those two work. We have, and I say we, our channel partners have STCs for the aircraft that have these LASEREF 2s, 3s today. So you can see the Falcons are covered, the 900 ABC, the Falcon 2000s. There's the old Challenger 600, 601s. Early serial number Global Expresses are affected by this as well. There's a block of serial numbers. They're not all of them, but if you have an earlier Global, it'll be affected. Some Hawker 800s put inertials in, but not many. It's really the 1000s, and there's not many Hawker 1000s flying either, but they are covered. Just wanted to make that clear. Early serial number Citation 10s also had LASEREF 3s that are going obsolete, up to about serial 120, I believe. After that, it becomes 4. Same on the Gulfstream 5. There were some early G5s that had the LASEREF 3s that are needing replacing. The G4, if you're a G4 operator, yeah, all of those, the 4s and the 4SPs all came with LASEREF 2s and then 3. No, all but all 2s, I believe. They never converted over during the production run. So those are all candidates for upgrade if you have a G4 SP. Again, those are covered by STCs. Dassault Falcon Jet owns an AML that covers most of those. Gulfstream has their models covered with an STC also. Both EASA, FAA certs. The table there shown is just kind of a reminder. If you have a part number HG 1075, just so you know, that's a LASEREF 2 shown there in the column. Anything with 1075, AE 3, 4, or even the ABO1, ABO2s are LASEREF 2s. And then the early HG 2001s, those are recognized as LASEREF 3s. The kind of the confusing thing is you convert to a 4, the base part number is still HG 2001, but those are all the GD series. So if you look at that third column that shows replacement, those are all your variations of LASEREF 4. So depending on the model that you have, whether it's an old Challenger or a newer G5, you have a certain LASEREF 4 part number replacement there. Quantities, most of these longer range aircraft are actually 3s. Most operators opted for the third position LASEREF 3. So you're going to see a lot of Falcons, Falcon 900s, Gulfstream 5s with 3. Some may have 2, but most have 3. So you're doing them in triples. Let's see, next slide. So yeah, this is a nice little summary slide before I turn it back over to John. When you're doing the upgrade, you certainly can do one at a time. It's been certified that way. You can actually mix and match LASEREF 2s or 3s with a 4. and you can do that. What we're saying here is, when you consider the upgrade, consider doing all 3 of them at once, or 2 of them at once, however many you have. And there's advantage to that. One is you get the instant weight savings, which is pretty significant. It'll help you with fuel, but yeah, you get a huge weight savings as well as a volume savings. The volume isn't significant enough to, you can add an extra pair of golf clubs in your luggage rack, but it's significant enough to get the volume and heat out of the area that they're installed, and thus making the area cooler. For other avionics, it makes the life of the units longer. So the volume is a nice little Benny that goes along with it. The one thing in the second bullet shows there's no heading split due to dissimilar magvar models. I mentioned that earlier. So if you are mixing and matching, if you are putting a LASEREF IV in with a 2 or a 3, the pilot may see, depending on how they're configured in the cockpit for display on the HSI, they may see a slight variation in heading, 1 or 2 degrees. It becomes a nuisance thing, not a cert issue. So it's not considered HMI. Hazardous misleading information is not a certification issue. This was granted by the cert authorities on this AML list. So it's really a nuisance thing. And I know a lot of pilots can be meticulous about that and have it bug them. But so when you consider doing all 3 at once or both at the same time, you won't have that heading split worry or nag. The newer units do improve reliability. As I said, over the evolution of this product, when we started with the LASEREF 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 4, etc., they've gotten smaller, they've gotten lighter, the components are higher reliability, they run cooler, so you're going to get more life out of them before a failure. So you do get this 30% improvement over your 2, 3. What that does is it maintains the aircraft at a higher availability level, so you don't have the worry of a LASEREF 3 or 2 failing. Even though you've replaced one, you still may have another one that'll fail. So you end that worry of a second or third failure, and you're keeping your aircraft at the highest availability level. There's also a little bit of downtime when you replace these. So if you're going to do them one at a time, you're going to have the airplane down 2 or 3 times to do it all. So why not do it all when it's down for one maintenance cycle is really the logic there. And then once they're done, yeah, you've got the airplane, it's set to go. You can maintain it for the next 10 or 20 years if you want, or sell it. And if you sell it, the work is done. It won't show up on a pre-buy that, hey, it needs inertials, there's obsolescence issues on this airplane. It's done. You've solved it. You've made the airplane a resellable asset with value. So yeah, nice little summary there of why doing 3. As I mentioned earlier, if you're on an MSP service contract with us for your old 2s and 3s, those will come off. So again, no reason to carry those 2s and 3s into next year when you're not getting them supported fully by Honeywell. So another reason there. I think this is my last slide. So yeah, we do have some sales collateral information out there. The 2 things available for operators are, one, as I mentioned earlier, this is what we call the Operator Information Bulletin. It's not just a slick sheet, a sales brochure. It really is a multi-page document that walks you through in paper here what I just kind of went through on the presentation. It shows the path for every aircraft. It shows the STC information. It gives technical specs and feature benefits and things like that. So it's kind of a full document of information, a good reference for you. And then the service information letter, which I mentioned, has been out a while now. It just talks about the obsolescence and the path that you will take and the part numbers that will replace, that are recommended for replacing the obsolete 2s and 3s. And as I mentioned in the last bullet there, the MSP avionics coverage ends at the end of this year. We did have what we called extended coverage. We're no longer offering that either. That's where you would pay in advance, and if you had a failure, you would get a new LASEREF IV upon failure. That coverage has been taken off availability. So again, kind of a transition year here where it's just making more sense to upgrade. I think I will turn it over, to John.
Ed, probably a good time for a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Kenyon's asking, why is the upgrade to a LASEREF 4 and not, say, to a LASEREF 6?
Yeah. So I know I mentioned in our long evolution of Honeywell laser products, yeah, we're up to the 6 now. Actually, the 5 and 6 came out around the mid 2000s. That's a different inertial in that it doesn't have the interfaces in it to support these older airplanes. These older airplanes use what we call ASCB, aircraft communications systems bus. So you need that interface. The LaserEF IV has all the necessary interfaces to support these more classic older airplanes that came with ASCB. The LaserEF V and the LaserEF VI are just straight 429, so they are not candidates, and they're just a little different form factor. They may have some extra features, but really the 4 is a fully functional unit, so you shouldn't be concerned that there's a 4 and a 5 out there, or excuse me, a 5 and a 6 out there. The 4 is the one that's needed, and it is fully featured, so it's a good unit.
Yeah, another question from Dan, kind of one I've been percolating in the back of my head. Are there third-party options to repair LaserEF 2s and 3s? I seem to think Honeywell's probably the only place you can get them repaired.
Yeah, that's a good thing to discuss here. So yeah, this upgrade, as you can imagine, and you'll get a quote, it's a substantial thing. It's a commitment. When you upgrade, it's a commitment that you're going to keep the airplane probably for a few more years. So it's not just a trivial couple of $1,000s you put in. You're putting in some substantial money, and we recognize there are some third-party repair shops out there that have some of these old 2s and 3s still on their shelves, and they're serviced. They're ready to plug in. Just want a few words of caution there. It's a risky thing to do that, in that those third-party repair shops cannot repair those units. So when they break, you can't just send them back to them and they'll fix them for you. They have to come back to Honeywell. And we, as I mentioned, the whole reason we're starting this obsolescence awareness is we're getting down to where we don't have the parts, and our benches are not going to be supported. The repair benches themselves are not going to be supported. So we won't be able to repair them either for the third-party repair shops when they send them to us. So bottom line is, the operator that buys these used units, yeah, it may fill a need right away, but it's a long-term risk to do that, because once that unit fails, there's probably no more, and then you're going to have to buy a 4 at some point anyway. So better to look at the big picture when you're upgrading versus just a short-term fix like that.
Agreed. Thanks, Ed. So Duncan, we recommend you just do the full upgrade right now. Replace the units, get it beyond you. There are large discounts. There's a $52,500 trade-in credit that's available per unit until 31 December, as well as some special pricing incentives that are also good until the end of the year. If you plan ahead, you'll reduce unexpected downtime and unexpected cost, and you won't have to worry about this in the future and get it behind you. And I think there's support for LaserEF IV for as long as I'm going to be in this business, long time. Moving on, Michael, could you give a little background about Duncan Aviation and close us out with the remainder of Q&A?
Absolutely. A lot of people probably know Duncan's been around for a long time, and we have a lot of facilities, but I don't think people realize how many facilities we have. We've got a total of 31 facilities across the United States, and usually, of course, at the bigger airports where you guys are going. And so these upgrades can be done at all of our satellite avionics facilities. And so the benefit of that is you get to do the upgrade close to your operation, but also the benefit is if you need help or something breaks or whatever, if you're out on the road, we usually have a facility close to you where we can help you out with that. So keep that in mind. And we've got a little bit kind of a web page on each facility, so you can take a peek at that on our website. And of course, we do more than avionics, aircraft sales, acquisitions, of course, the maintenance, heavy maintenance, avionics, components, engine, AOG services, paint, interior. And of course, we've got a lot of parts rotables out there for you guys as well. So if you haven't given us a call for those items, feel free to give us a call on those. Or here's our contact information for myself, for John, and of course for Ed. But for some reason, in the middle of the night, you go, my God, I wish I would have remembered to ask that question. Well, you can send us an email, and you can definitely ask that question. And we have had a lot of questions here. And John, I'm glad you kind of hit some of those. Ed, Joe wanted to know how long the discount pricing will be available. What's the plan on that?
Yeah, we do this year to year. So we have a sales bulletin that runs through the end of 2020. So December 31st, 2020, that nice trade-in credit will go away. At least the current one will.
Okay, understood. So yeah, that's another benefit to go ahead and try to get that done now. And Dan also had mentioned he's got a third LaserEF, but he mentioned it's an AHRS. It's kind of a third AHRS, and I think we had that. I threw that question to you last week with that Falcon 50 I had. Is that, if you remember that one, there's a third unit, but it seems to be, it's what you call, I think it was a laser nav product. Is that pretty common in some of these aircraft?
Well, yeah, the laser nav was almost a predecessor, and we made them in parallel back in the 80s. The laser nav, it was basically an inertial navigation set, which is what we used to call INS, and it was fully contained. It had a control panel in the cockpit that functioned like a poor man's FMS. You could program it with waypoints, and it would run off the inertial, and it would give you track deviation information and things to again, pre-FMS kind of thing. So that was called laser nav. There are some out there. But also, to follow up with some more on that, is that the early G4s, and I believe there was another platform, had, instead of it came down the production line, instead with a triple inertial, they had two inertials and an AHRS. And the AHRS, I believe it was a HG 1076 instead of a 1075. But nonetheless, we're replacing them. So the AML will cover that. If they have an old AHRS, which is a Honeywell product, AHRS, and an HG 1076, and there's some others that's in the bulletin. Those can be replaced as well with the LaserEF IV, because those are going obsolete as well. Those have the same parts. It looks just like a laser now, or excuse me, it looks just like a LaserEF. It was just depopulated and to make it more affordable on the production. And then it was offered. The upgrade was offered in the completion as an option. So yeah, you will see some AHRS, and depending on the part number, they're supported by this upgrade as well.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. I actually did not know that. Got two good questions kind of tied together. Kind of the ballpark of how long it takes to do this. Downtime is usually just roughly around 5 days to do the upgrade. And as kind of they asked on the how booked out we are, it depends on the facility that you're looking at. So the benefit is just if you're really thinking about doing the upgrade, give John or I a call or an email here, and we can kind of let you know just where you're at, what facility is close to you, and what the backlog is at each of those facilities. All right, we've got that one done, and I think we're starting to kind of wind down on some of the questions. If anybody else has a question, we'll be able to respond back to you via email on that. And I think we're going to start wrapping up. John, you got anything else you'd like to add?
I don't. I just thank everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, and Ed, as always, love having you on there. You're a wealth of knowledge on these systems out there, and we're going to have to keep close to you as we go through the year and into next year on what our options are. So again, thanks for helping us out on this.
Yeah, no, glad to do it. And as it shows there, feel free, anyone on the call here, use my email. I can also get you my voice contact, but email is great. I'll respond to any questions as soon as I receive them on this product. So yeah, feel free to use me.
Sounds great. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll have more webinars, so check our schedule on the different topics that we're going to be having in the future. And again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.